I used to think that people who struggle with money do so because they overspend. But after years of observing, I realized something very different. Most people don't spend money when they're happy. They spend money when they're tired, tired from work, tired from constantly trying, tired from feeling like they're always a step behind everyone else. And in many cases, money isn't used to build a better life. It's used to quickly end an overloaded day. This happens so quietly that most people don't even realize they're doing it. Idea 1. Money usually leaks when decisions are made in an unstable mental state. I've come to realize that the biggest problem with money isn't the numbers. It's the mental state you're in when you use it. Most people imagine bad spending as buying something very expensive or making one big impulsive decision. But in reality, money usually disappears through very small choices. One time choosing the faster option. One time choosing the option that requires less thinking. One time telling yourself, whatever, I'm exhausted today. These decisions don't come from greed. They come from exhaustion. When your brain has already processed too much during the day, it automatically looks for ways to reduce the load. And money is the fastest tool to do that. No extra thinking, no waiting, no long consideration. You pay, and the tension drops immediately. What's interesting is that afterward, many people turn around and blame themselves. They say, I must lack discipline. I'm not strong enough. I'm just bad with money. But most people don't notice this. They're demanding good financial decisions from themselves at a moment when their mind is already depleted. If every day ends in exhaustion, money will almost certainly be used as emotional relief. Not because you're weak, but because money is compensating for a life that's too tense. People who manage money well aren't usually tougher. They simply design their lives so they don't have to make decisions when their energy is already gone. They don't wait until they're exhausted to decide what to do with money. They set things up in advance so that when they're tired, money doesn't have to double as emotional first aid. Once you understand this, you stop trying to control yourself through sheer willpower. And you start asking a much more important question. What in my life is making money my way of coping? Change that, and your cash flow changes with it, without forcing yourself to live a harsher life. Idea 2. Most money mistakes don't come from big purchases, but from quietly raising your standard of living. This sounds familiar, but very few people notice how it actually happens. Almost no one suddenly doubles their spending overnight. Money leaves in a much quieter way. Not, screw it, I'm buying this. But, this one's more convenient. That one's a bit better value. My income is higher now anyway. Each decision is small. Each upgrade feels reasonable. And because of that, nothing feels dangerous. But over time, a new baseline forms. You stop comparing to your past. You compare to the new standard you've just created. What's interesting is that once the standard rises, your brain starts treating that spending level as normal. Going back no longer feels like saving. It feels like loss. Many people don't realize they don't lack money. They lack breathing room. More money comes in, but lifestyle expands at the same speed. And suddenly the thought appears, I don't really have much left at the end of the month. Not because income is low, but because every expense quietly moved up a level. I've heard many people say, I didn't buy anything big. I don't get where the money went. But when you look closely, you see that everything got upgraded. Food, transportation, convenience, services, daily habits. Nothing outrageously expensive, but together, very expensive. The key point isn't don't upgrade. It's this. Do you upgrade before money is set aside? Or after money is already protected? People who manage money well usually do something very simple. They move savings out of sight first. Once that money isn't there, lifestyle doesn't get a chance to expand emotionally. No constant restraint. No daily internal battles. Lifestyle can only grow within what remains, and that creates a very different feeling. Not tense, not deprived, but still with room left over. Most people don't realize that financial safety isn't determined by income. It's determined by how fast lifestyle chases income. Slow that down by just one notch, and financial pressure drops noticeably without needing to live cheaply. Idea 3. Mixing all financial goals together is the fastest way to feel anxious all the time. I've noticed a very common paradox. Many people have savings, but they don't feel secure at all. In fact, The more everything sits in one place, the more stress they feel when something unexpected happens. The issue isn't the amount of money. It's the feeling that the money has to do too many jobs at once, when the same pool of money is expected to protect you, handle emergencies, secure your future, create opportunities, and reassure you that you're on track. Then one small disruption is enough to trigger panic. An unexpected bill, an unplanned expense, a lower income month. Suddenly, you don't just lose money. It feels like you're damaging your future, and in that state, clear decisions are very hard to make. I often see two extreme reactions: panic and cut everything, or give up and say, "What's the point? It's never enough anyway." Neither reaction is rational. They come from money not having clear roles. What's interesting is that when money is separated by function, emotions shift almost immediately. Emergency money doesn't need to grow. Its job is to keep you calm. Future money doesn't need to be touched often. It needs time and patience. When every dollar knows its role, you no longer have to overthink every expense. An unexpected cost isn't a disaster anymore. It's simply what emergency money exists for. That separation helps you react less emotionally, blame yourself less, and avoid destroying long-term plans over short-term issues. Most people don't realize that financial anxiety doesn't come from not being rich enough. It comes from every dollar being pulled toward fear. Once you remove that pressure, money returns to its proper role, a tool, not a psychological burden. Idea 4. Trying to control every dollar often makes people quit sooner. There's something oddly ironic I've noticed. People who are serious about managing money often choose the fastest way to burn out. They track every expense, record every small receipt, question every purchase. Was this worth it? At first, it feels very controlled, but quickly it becomes heavy, not because they're lazy, but because the brain isn't designed for constant monitoring. Most people don't realize this. Most money isn't lost through random mistakes. It leaks through a few repeated habits. The same eating patterns, the same conveniences, the same spending categories where you're weakest. When you try to control everything, you spend energy where it doesn't create much impact. And by the time you hit your real weak spots, you're already tired. At that point, the brain no longer wants to manage. It wants relief from being watched. And then the familiar thing happens. Tracking gets abandoned, or spending happens in one screw-it moment. What I've learned is this: people who manage money sustainably don't control more. They filter better. They know which categories drive most results and which ones aren't worth constant attention. Instead of asking every day, "Did I spend correctly today?" they ask, "Is there a spending pattern repeating that I haven't noticed yet?" Fix a few big habits and the rest naturally tightens up. No tension, no self-blame, no obsessive tracking. Interestingly, when pressure drops, behavior often adjusts on its own. Money doesn't respond well to tension. It responds better to clarity and calm. Idea 5. When money becomes proof of self-worth. Pressure rises, but satisfaction doesn't. There's something many people feel but rarely say out loud. At a certain point, money stops being just a practical tool. It starts serving another role, proving who you are, not publicly, not loudly, just internally, that you're not behind, that you're not falling short, that you're doing okay compared to others. And money gets used to reinforce that feeling. What's interesting is that many of these expenses don't actually make life much easier. They simply reduce the fear of being judged. You choose what looks appropriate. You choose what feels less embarrassing. You avoid choices that make you feel left behind. No one forces this on you. The pressure comes from inside. Most people don't notice that once spending is tied to identity, money stops serving you. It starts carrying an image. And when money carries that much expectation, it rarely brings lasting relief. You might feel satisfied for a moment, but it fades quickly. Then come new comparisons, new standards, new pressure. I've seen many people earn more than ever, yet feel less secure. Not because they spent wrong, but because every purchase carried a heavy question: is this enough? People who remain financially stable tend to do something very quiet. They separate money from self-validation. They don't use money to answer, "Who am I in other people's eyes?" They use it to answer a simpler question: does this actually make my life easier? Once that standard changes, many expenses disappear on their own. No bans, No arguments. They just no longer have a reason to exist, and money returns to its proper role, supporting life, not carrying psychological pressure. Idea 6. High fixed expenses don't make your life better. They just make it harder to breathe when life changes. I've noticed something that's really easy to miss. A lot of people judge their quality of life based on the things they've locked in. A bigger place, a nicer car, more services, more monthly payments that have to happen no matter what. Everything looks fine until a small shift happens. Your income slows down. Work doesn't feel as stable as it used to, or you simply want to change direction. And in that moment, the problem isn't that you don't earn enough, it's that your money is already spoken for. Fixed expenses have a dangerous feature. They don't ask if you're ready, even if you're exhausted this month, even if you want a break, even if you need time to recover, they still have to be paid. I've seen a lot of people who aren't truly afraid of being short on money. They're afraid of having no way out. They don't dare try something new. They don't dare slow down. They don't dare say no to the things draining them, not because they don't want a different life, but because their fixed costs won't allow it. And here's what's interesting. Lowering fixed expenses doesn't necessarily make you less comfortable. It just makes life lighter psychologically. When the must-pay portion is smaller, you have more options. You can handle a lower income month without panic. You can change jobs without fear. You can say, not yet, instead of at any cost. People who are financially stable aren't living simpler because they're cheap. They live simpler because they treat flexibility as an asset. They don't ask, can I afford this? They ask, if life shifts, can I still move? Sometimes just lowering a few fixed commitments makes a huge amount of financial pressure disappear on its own. No need to immediately earn more. No need to cut all the joy out of your life. Just give yourself room to breathe. Idea 7. Delaying purchases isn't saving. It's just moving the decision to later. I've realized a lot of people think they're doing well with money simply because they haven't bought the thing yet. They say, I'll do it next month, once things settle down. When I have extra, it sounds responsible, but what's interesting is most of those expenses don't disappear. They just show up later. And when they return, they usually come with a new justification. I've waited long enough. It's worth it now. This time, it's different. So a lot of people believe they're saving, but they're really just temporarily holding themselves back. And the problem with holding yourself back is it requires constant alertness. You have to keep remembering what you're trying to do. All it takes is one extra tired week or one emotional trigger, and that delayed decision comes rushing back. Real saving doesn't work like that. Real saving happens when you change how you make decisions, not when you make them. Once a habit is adjusted, your brain stops negotiating every time. You don't keep asking, should I buy it? Because the answer was decided earlier. People who manage money long-term don't win through willpower. They win by reducing the number of choices they have to fight. They don't turn every month into a new battle. They adjust the system once and then let it run. And here's the interesting part. When you're no longer holding back, the feeling of deprivation often disappears too. You don't feel like you're forcing yourself to go without. You simply don't feel the same need anymore. And that's when money starts staying with you longer, without you having to try harder. Idea 8. Cutting joy out of your money plan often leads to dangerous rebound decisions. I've noticed a very common mistake among people who are serious about money. They think stability means they have to have less fun, go out less, enjoy less, stop allowing themselves anything unnecessary. At first, it looks like it works. More money stays in the account. You feel more in control, but after a while, something else appears. Emotional fatigue, not because they hate saving, but because they're living in a state of always postponing joy. The brain doesn't forget what gets postponed. It just stores this message, I'll make it up later. And when pressure builds long enough, the rebound happens. Not as a small decision, but as a bigger release. A purchase just to get it out of my system. A reward because I deserve it. A decision that even they later admit was a bit much. And what's interesting is, those purchases rarely create real lasting joy. They simply release the pressure that was building. And then comes regret. I've seen many people fail, not because they spend too much, but because they never gave joy a clear place in the plan. People who keep money well aren't more strict. They're more intentional. They decide in advance where the fun goes, how much is enough, and when to stop. When joy has a defined place, it doesn't have to sneak in. Spending stops being a reaction. It becomes a conscious choice, and that creates a very different feeling. No guilt, no impulsiveness, no rebound. A sustainable budget isn't one with zero joy. It's one that lets you live fully, without paying for it later. Idea 9. The feeling that you're behind makes you rush money decisions without realizing it. I've noticed there's a powerful driver of money behavior that almost never gets named. It's the feeling of falling behind. No one says it out loud. It shows up quietly. You see other people getting stable sooner, buying something before you, looking like they've completed a stage, and a thought flashes through your mind. Am I moving too slow? What's interesting is that feeling doesn't always make you sad. It makes you impatient. And when you're impatient, your brain starts skipping steps. You stop asking, is this right for me? You start asking, how can I shorten the path? I've seen a lot of financial decisions made in that state. Upgrading lifestyle earlier than someone can truly afford, taking bigger risks than they can emotionally handle, spending money just to feel less behind. Not because they're greedy, but because they're afraid of standing still. The danger is that feeling often doesn't reflect reality. You're only seeing someone else's results at a different time, in a different situation, but your brain turns it into your current standard. Financially stable people tend to share one thing. They rarely let other people's pace set their financial speed. They understand money doesn't do well under urgency. Every time you force money to keep up, you trade long-term stability for short-term relief. And here's the interesting part. When you allow yourself to move just one beat slower, the pressure drops noticeably. You're no longer trying to prove something, catch up, or chase someone else's timeline. Money stops being pulled by comparison. It starts supporting your actual path. And when you keep a steady pace, results may come a little slower, but they tend to last much longer. Idea 10. Slow progress isn't the problem. Quitting is. Because you think you're moving too slowly. I've noticed a strange paradox. A lot of people don't fail because they lack knowledge. They fail because they can't tolerate slow progress. This month, you save a little. Next month, you drift off plan. Then the month after, you're back on track. From the outside, it doesn't look impressive. And because there's no breakthrough, people start doubting. Maybe this doesn't work. Maybe I need to go harder. Maybe other people have a faster method. But here's what's interesting. Money doesn't respond well to impatience. It doesn't grow from short bursts of intensity. It grows from behaviors repeated long enough. I've seen so many people change plans constantly, try a new method every week, start excited every time, and in the end, they don't lose because they chose wrong. They lose because they didn't stay long enough with anything. Real financial progress is quiet. It doesn't announce. Today you're better than yesterday. It just accumulates until one day you look back and realize, I'm doing better than I thought. The people who end up stable usually aren't the ones who do the most in a short time. They're the ones who accept imperfect months, don't destroy the system over one slip, return to the rhythm instead of quitting. They understand one off month doesn't erase a year of consistency, and one imperfect decision doesn't define you. When you protect consistency, money starts adjusting around you. A little slower, but a lot stronger. If you saw yourself in any of these points, start simple. Don't try to change everything at once. Just pick one idea from this video that feels most true for you right now, and stick with it long enough. If this helped you see money more clearly, hit like to support the channel. And subscribe if you want more calm, practical breakdowns on money psychology and wealth behavior without pressure or fear. Thanks for watching all the way through. I'll see you in the next video.